All right, I'm what stands between you and the 48th floor and all those great cocktails, right? All right, so I'm going to try to bring it home for you real quick. I mean, no doubt about it, we're living, as you as digital marketers right now, you're living at what I think is probably the most pivotal time, at least in terms of digital media in the last 10 years. What's happening right now. We're going to talk a little bit about that, not spend a whole lot of time on current events, but talk about some of the things that you'll need to be doing right now as a business, as a marketer, to ensure you can survive when this all plays out over the next year and a half, 2 years. So, at Brain+Trust, we help so many of our clients go through certain digital transformation initiatives. And if you understand what transformation is about, it is not as much what you do to change the way you operate your business, but it's what's happening in the outside world. We have things like bot attacks that are happening across every major social network except Facebook. Fake reviews on Amazon, fake reviews on TripAdvisor. There are 11 bot nodes around the world. Just saw this as a demonstration in San Francisco 2 weeks ago at the Signal Labs Summit, where they showed that same week that people were tweeting about the royal family with the royal family hashtag, and how all of a sudden you could geographically see these thousands of bots coming from Japan and basically attacking anybody who used that hashtag. It's a cruel world. The other things that are happening there is that many of us have been paying twice for data because our comms team uses some of the same data that the marketing team uses. And the complaints that somebody has about you in some social networks and some streams are the same things that amount to a crisis that somebody in the corporate communications department would have to do. So you've got some different things that are happening there. The other thing that really is happening here is there is a velocity at which innovation is happening that has you all confused as hell, because you're getting a phone call or an email every 3 minutes where somebody wants to do a demo for you. So, looking at all these things, we can take a closer look at the current last 6 weeks of what's been happening. Scott Brinker at HubSpot, who also runs ChiefMartech.com, which is a great blog for marketing technology, he puts this together every year. I'm sure you've seen this. I'm sure you've seen a lot of people share it on LinkedIn. I think it is only 2 weeks old. This is the Lumascape that shows us all of the companies that are providing us with digital media management tools, digital marketing tools. And this is called the MarTech 5000, and that's because last year was the first year that there were 5,000. Just 5 years ago it was only 500. This year it was 6,800. That's what's happening. 2 guys in a coffee shop, somebody in Silicon Valley just got 10 million in funding. Every couple hours there's something else brought to market, and there's a surplus of technology on the market right now. And what's worse is many of you and the folks that report to you, the folks that you report to, have been enamored by these shiny objects, and they've oversubscribed. You've got, on an average right now in the United States alone, corporations are using as many as, on average, 35 to 50 different point solutions to manage the customer experience. And it's frustrating as hell to you. I know that it is. So as soon as you get that figured out, we have these things that are almost supernaturally human that are starting to pop up everywhere. So a study from Edison Research that they did with NPR showed that of Americans 18 plus, 16% of us have got a smart speaker in the home. Raise your hand if you have an Amazon Echo Dot in your house. Google Home. Apple Home. Apple Pod. Apple whatever they're calling it now. Sonos One. All right. The thing about it is there's only 2 companies that make up of that 16%, 15%. I say that means there's only 1% left over for everybody else. That should be pretty scary for many of us when you think about who those two companies are, and you can think about the patents they filed and the direction that they've gone recently. I live in Austin, Texas, and I can right now probably have you go to my phone and text 20 of my good friends that used to work at Whole Foods that don't work at Whole Foods anymore. So there are things that are happening competitively, and there are things that are happening which are additional distractions or additional channels, if you will, in terms of marketing. And when I say supernaturally human, it's because the nice frictionless way that we're talking to these devices, most people are saying they'd like to have this everywhere they go. They'd like to have it in the car. They'd like to have it at work, perhaps. They certainly would like to be able to talk to their television instead of trying to find the remote that's hidden in the cushion couch. The couch cushion, that too. But honestly, we are living at a time where we are seeing rapid prototyping and new products being brought to market that are only going to pile on top of the point solution hell that you're in right now in terms of figuring out how to engage your customers. On top of that, the last time I gave this talk was about 4 weeks ago at a Merit Direct event, a bunch of direct marketers, and it was the day after Google had sent the email out that said, if you've been using AdWords, everything's about to change on May 25th. How many of you in the room manage AdWords for your organization? And you know the email I'm talking about. You got another one this week that was kind of a reminder, right? So that and Mr. Zuckerberg going to Washington, already as many as 5 of the APIs that were used by some of our social listening tools and social publishing tools have been shut off. And it's only going to become more so. GDPR is not just limited to a European situation. It is something that affects us all when we're on global advertising networks, but it's also something that I can guarantee you will be emulated here in the United States by our crazy ideological political system that's in place right now. And that's not a political statement. That's just the natural statement about what will be done, what will be emulated here soon in terms of privacy. So, to try to talk happy and more about digital marketing now, let's take a quick look at how fast we've adopted smartphones. All you have to do is go back 10 years. And 10 years ago, really when the iPhone was born, some of us in the room probably had a BlackBerry back then. And over that 10 years, we've got to 83% of Americans 18 plus that are now carrying a smartphone. And I look at marketers and I say, what have you been waiting for? This has given you a one-to-one, peer-to-peer connection with your customers, but you still want to operate on rented land. You still want to go through other mediums. You want to do it because I heard somebody say earlier, because that's where they are. That's very logical. But the bottom line is you have a peer-to-peer connection with your customers. And now is the time to shore up that relationship as that rented land starts to come under attack and or just disappears from us in terms of how easy it was to use it before. What I'm talking about in this world are really the reality of these two gentlemen right here. And I won't embarrass anyone under the age of 35 and ask you if you don't know who these guys are. But if you're familiar with Cheers, these two guys are exemplary for what we all are today. Cliff Clayton knew a little bit about everything, right? There'd be a conversation going in the bar and he would immediately go butt into the conversation and say what he knew that was about an inch deep and a mile wide about everything. And on your right, when he walked in the bar, what happened? Norm. Personalization at its highest. He had a seat at the table waiting for him, and they had a beer waiting for him, and everybody in the bar, even all the characters that you never even knew their name, but they were always in that bar, they all stopped what they were doing and announced that he was there. That's what marketing is about today, with personalization, and that is where we are headed. Now, the problem is that most of us are dealing with, remember those 35 systems that we're using to manage the digital experience. The problem is that those systems are usually not talking to each other. Some of you may be using Zapier to connect the marketing automation system with the CRM. Some of you may be using MuleSoft to connect something else like a kiosk in a store to your CRM. There's other things that are happening there, but not true full systems integration in terms of knowing who your customer is from end to end. And you have these issues where Bob has filled out a form on your website. Robert B. Smith's credit card is used at checkout, whether that's in store or it's online. There's a CRM record for him that's Robert. He's Bobby. He used the name Bobby when he downloaded the mobile app. And he is Robert based on what his Google identity is. And he's real Robert on Twitter. And this is a problem. I can't name names, but one of our clients, a very popular fast food chain, has got an issue where they have almost 10 million people using a mobile app, and they have 15 million people a month saying things about them on Twitter, most of it not very good. So the people that are working in the call center doing customer service, when Bob, who uses the mobile app and the coupon you push him to order a meal, I won't say what kind of meal it is, I don't want to give it away, on a weekly basis, Bob is in your store every week. And then he complains when he has to wait too long in the drive-thru. The people that are answering that call have no idea that he's one of their most valuable customers. So we're going to talk about how you can close that gap and do it easier today than you ever have before. Because the real problem is that we may have this information and we may have a CRM that we're connecting certain systems to, but we're still sending emails that say, hello customer, hello member, hello first name. And that is not true personalization. And the problems with this is that we're getting fewer repeat purchases. And for some marketers, especially if you haven't gone through lifetime value exercises and calculated what one person means to you over a long period of time, if you haven't done that, then you're engaged in marketing for the purpose of acquisition and constantly filling the funnel. You're not really understanding how you have valuable assets that are there with you in a community, in your audience, that would be happy to open their wallets to you again. The most valuable customers, the Bob I just described, are churning and going to competitors now because they have frictionless ways that they can get stuff through a mobile app or without you having to use their wallet when they're in the store. And this just simple, you may have a better product, but they're going to go where there is the least amount of pain and there is the least amount of friction. At the end of the day, we're seeing businesses left and right that are losing revenue, and they're blaming it on something that has to do with the economy, or they're blaming it on something the competition did, when in fact, it could be the fact that they just simply don't know who their customers are. So to do this, you must start with your digital customers first and understand where you have customer records laying in these 35 plus systems that you're using to manage the customer experience. And then you have to start to understand how you can create loyalty and an exceptional customer experience across every single one of these digital touch points that is personalized and contextually relevant. How do we do that? Well, you heard this morning the concept of connecting data and pooling data together to run certain analytics on it. Basically pulling all of your customer records into a central customer data platform, not a CRM, and not what people were just conveniently calling a data lake as late as 6 months ago, but a true customer data platform that has the API connectors for all the systems that you're using, pulling it in, and then using machine learning to go about understanding the common instances, the common behaviors that exist across all of your customers, at the same time uniting into singular customer records each one of your customers, instead of having 7 different records, 10 different, 35 different records as you do today. From there, you have the opportunity, once you can see their behavior and you can start to segment your audience even better, a much more promising opportunity to act more accurately and to be much smarter with what you're investing in and what your spend is. One of the things you need to do right now is understand everywhere that you have been operating on rented property with your custom audiences that you have on Facebook or used to have on Facebook, with the retargeting lists, the pixel lists, anywhere that you think you've been successful, you have until May 25th to do this. Spend a little money and get people not to click through on an offer, not to click through and buy something, but get them to click through and give them something for free for giving you the simple information of their name, address, phone number, and email address. You have until May 25th to do that with everybody you've been touching and retargeting and targeting over the last 5+ years. Spend a little money over the next 2 or 3 weeks to be able to go poll and get your customers, or the ideal audience that you have almost unfettered access to today, and be able to get them to come fill out a form to give you that information. Give them something free, of course. That could be anything. It could be a recipe, it could be a how-to video, it could be something else if you're able to do this with a storefront that's physical, and keychains and things like that. I don't know your businesses individually, so I'm not going to pretend to give you some blanket instruction here. Leverage the direct connectivity that you have with them now. Think about email and how you can get people to click through, your customers to click through on an email, and to quickly, especially in a post-purchase situation, answer a few questions for you. Ask them what their favorite color is. Ask them if they're a sports fan. Ask them if they have a certain hobby that's related to what it is you're selling. Ask them questions that are lifestyle oriented, and pack that information into your CRM, which ultimately, if it's connected to a customer data platform, will enrich the records. The other thing that you will do here, and for the sake of time, I won't spend too much time on this slide, is be able to ask your customers for rich media. There's a gentleman over here who asked a question when we had Herbalife up here, and said, how do you leverage user-generated content in a way that you can make sure it's on brand? Something like that was the question. Well, you can script what the questions are, and you can script what the ask is. What do you want them to take a picture of? What do you want them to shoot a video of? What you're seeing here is from a company I happen to sit on the advisory board of, is Rivetworks. And Rivetworks did this with WD-40 several years ago. WD-40, if everybody, who doesn't know what WD-40 is? Because everybody's got a can of WD-40 in their house, right? So, I hear a few people explaining what WD-40 is, I love it. So, basically, asking people to show what they do with WD-40. And it was fascinating. They had more than 6,000 entries, almost all videos, of people showing the things that they do in terms of cleaning jewelry, in terms of cleaning, I think, fruit in one of them, that they would later peel. I mean, there was some crazy stuff that was there, but in taking that content, they were able to merchandise it across every other visual touch point that they had. Display ads, social media, email, direct mailers, shelf talkers in retail stores. Being able to leverage user-generated content, being able to script what it is you want. And the reason I say this in the same breath as this presentation is because in the peer-to-peer reality that you have, that connectivity that you have with your customers, every single one of them, almost 83%, right, are carrying an HD or a 4K production studio in their pocket everywhere they go. So when they open an email from you, when they click on a tweet, a link on a tweet, anywhere they are, ask them to do something and to send something to you. And when you do that, you'll be able to go merchandise that and apply it in other marketing efforts. You can't do that when you run a hashtag campaign on Instagram because the video or the photo still belongs to them. But if you ask them for it and you have them click a little box and give you the rights, you can start to leverage user-generated content in many places and get that directly from your customers. So the customer data platform plea that I'm putting in front of you is a technology that allows you to connect via API all of the various systems that you're using to manage the customer experience. The more sophisticated your organization is, connecting your CDP to digital asset management, which could be connected to a DSP, if anybody in the room is using a DSP to buy in real-time media on various ad networks. Being able to match your customer data, which is much more and better segmented now, with what the possibilities are to place buys, to have those contextual experiences. But being able to bring all that data from all these various touch points into one central place, not your CRM. CRM is a part of the mix, but a true customer data platform. When you do this, you will see in weeks that your marketing spend is lower. You are going to be much more accurate in terms of what you are buying from a media standpoint because you understand your audience better. Your customers are going to be happier because what you're sending to them with email and what you're targeting them from an advertising standpoint is personalized and much more relevant to them. Further, you're going to realize other efficiencies inside your organization as you pull together all of this data, because everyone in the organization, I know none of you in the room are managing all 35 of those systems by yourself, but anyone in the organization now is going to have a true north with that singular customer record to understand who the customer is, and you're going to have time savings in everything from customer recovery to teeing up a direct mail program to putting an email campaign together. And I would argue that you're also going to be able to accelerate, and you as marketers, and in doing this, being able to shape what the next flavor is, or what the next go-to-market plan is in terms of a new product, in terms of a new service that your company is trying to bring to market. The other benefits, just to go down the list real quick for you, or what I've already said, by bringing this together and reaching the personalized nirvana that customers want and that you need in order to drive more click-throughs, more conversions, more sales, you're also going to be in a better position to adhere. I am not an attorney. I cannot give you yes, no's, or confirmations on what this does to have you adhere with GDPR regulations holistically. But I can tell you that when Bob calls you and says, I'd like to erase every bit of information that you have about me, you're not going to be able to do that so efficiently when Bob has records in 35 systems, but if it all exists in one place, you can hit a button and Bob is gone. Now, again, I'll just say, that's important to think about. You know, in Norway, about a year ago, they introduced what they call digital suicide, which is the same thing as what we're talking about with GDPR, the freedom to be forgotten. But in Norway, it's as easy as everybody in the country having a mobile app, and on that mobile app, they can select the company that has sent an email to them and immediately hit a button and have every bit of their information deleted immediately from that company. I've already talked about personalization and contextual relevance. There is that which plays into that, which is optimizing what you can do from a segmentation standpoint, what you can do in terms of understanding customer needs and customer behavior better. How bad is my microphone going? Is it good? Walk that way? Okay. Stay over here? All right. The other thing this does, though, is it gets you ready for machine learning and artificial intelligence. Garbage in, garbage out is how artificial intelligence is going to work. If your data is not governed very well, if it's not extremely organized, if your media is not federated, and your media is built on schemas that your company has come up with itself, not that which Google has dictated, then you can put machine learning and artificial intelligence to work to all it can do. I'm not talking about chatbots yet, but that's a big part of it. The other beautifulness about this is that when you're using a consumer data platform, you have the opportunity to do plug and play with new point solutions. You don't have to worry about exporting data from one system and importing it into another. You are given the freedom to innovate and try new things over the future as you want to get into totally immersive virtual reality, augmented reality, chatbots, anything else that you want to start to test with. Once you have that CDP in place, you will have the luxury of being able to do this without having to go through massive systems integration or data migration. And finally, the last thing that this will do by giving you golden customer records is it will allow you in the next 2 to 3 years to start to test, pilot, or otherwise implement blockchain technology. I'm not talking about taking Bitcoin as a payment. I'm talking about the ability to have value transfers between your customers peer-to-peer and doing so without losing any value between them. That's coming, and it's coming soon. And just like artificial intelligence and machine learning, if your data's a mess, if your data's all over the place, you're not going to be able to embrace blockchain technology the way that you can and I believe you should. This is a schematic of Conversable's chatbot system and how they integrate into an environment that has many other tools that are there. If you're looking at chatbot technology, you have to be able to have a conversation with your vendor about how, if it's true artificial intelligence, if it is technology, software, that is going to learn as it goes. The more interactions it has with customers, it is going to learn. You need to be in a position to let that chatbot or that platform have access to all the other systems that you have. And I challenge my friends at Conversable, because if you have a consumer data, or a customer data platform in place, you just simply need to connect what you're doing with your chatbot with that CDP. Getting closer to the technological end of this, the other thing you'll do when you have your data in order is you'll be able to run predictive analytics and be much more accurate with forecasting. You have access through Google Trends up to 5 years of search behavior on whatever you want to see that people have searched for. It's anonymized, but you'll be able to see the general population's behavior on Google and what they search for. You have 13 years of Twitter data that you have access to through certain platforms. You have just as much that you can get from a behavioral and anonymized standpoint to build lookalike audiences from Facebook and other ad networks. But with that, coupled with what you have in a customer data platform that may have very old customer records in it, combined with the latest touch and the latest instance of any engagement you've had with them, you will be able to start to model behavior and understand when people buy, not just on sales data that you have last year versus this year, but down to the day, what you could expect sales to be, again, making your marketing spend much more accurate. Lots of words here, but in having your data in order and then putting it to work, it is about knowing your customers better. It is about engaging them better, not just when they at you, mention you, or send you an email or call you. Engaging with them much more timely, and obviously measuring better for accuracy in terms of what you report with both media performance and sales performance. But wait, there's still more that you'll have to do. And this is where we get analog for just a second. There are three kinds of people in the world. There are the customers that you have, there are the customers that you've lost, and there are the customers that you want. You need to talk to at least 10 people in each of these categories to set up a panel and have conversations with them to understand behaviorally what is it that is driving them or not driving them to buy from you or to buy something other than you. You need to have those conversations. It's not just anecdotal. It's not, I would say, it's not always as powerful as what you can do once you pull all your data in one place and allow machine learning to go and analyze everything that you have. But it's the human side of a exchange with your current customers, again, your ideal or aspirational customers, to be able to understand their true needs. Further with that, if you're in software, this is something that I think every business can steal from the software world, is building a customer advisory board. Those customers that are A, spending the most with you, and B, asking the most from you, those are the ones that are the most needy, are the ones that you need to put into some semblance of a council or a board that you can, on a quarterly basis, interact with them and be able to get their feedback on things you're doing from a marketing standpoint, whether that's messaging, whether that's creative, or it's down to product functionality and understanding what their needs are. Put that customer board together. And the last thing, this is a digital marketing conference. Raise your hand if you also run the direct mail program for your company. Raise them high, please. There's a few. Those of you who didn't raise your hand, how often, raise your hand if you sit down once a month with whoever runs direct mail? A couple hands. The direct mail marketers have been the most data-driven marketers for decades. They know more about how to read data and how to derive insights from it than any of us do in the social and the digital media space. Grab a cup of coffee and sit down with them. Share with them what you see. Share your reports with them and ask them to do the same. I can tell you right now, every time I've said that, I've had people call me the week after a speaking engagement like this and tell me about, I just met Bob for the first time. I just met Susie. She sits 4 offices down from me, and I walk by there every day and I say hello, but we're starting to have lunch together once a week, and the things we're sharing right now absolutely are showing us how we can help each other up each other's game, but how we can drive direct mail engagements into digital engagements and vice versa. So, no doubt about it, digital transformation is upon us. Much of what's happening, nobody in this room can control. None of us can control together. It's going to happen, and the world's going to look much different over the next 2 to 3 years than it does today. It's already changed over the last 6 weeks. But having the knowledge of who your customers are, knowing who they are, knowing their needs, building a best-in-class customer experience, and having your organization across all of those touch points, everything that manages the customer experience, will create this external focus rather than an internal focus, make you more efficient, and make you much more powerful in terms of what you're doing from a marketing standpoint. And I think I'm done early for questions, and also I, like you, would rather be upstairs having a cocktail. I'm obviously going to go up there with you guys and answer questions, but any questions? I don't know where the block's right here. Anybody have a question on anything I've talked about? Question about what a CDP is, or how many of you are using Customer Data Platform right now? Okay. Yes.
Yes, I can stand up with it. Which CDPs would you recommend that has good integration towards all those 35 systems?
Sure. I'll give you three names. Treasure Data. The question was, what were the ones I would recommend? Treasure Data, it's a Japanese company that's been operating here in the United States for 2 years now. Phenomenal what they do. Thunderhead. Thunderhead is just started operating in the United States. They've been operating, they're a UK-based company. But they're here now too. And then Redpoint Global out of Boston are the three that I would look at. Now, I would also tell everybody that there is the Customer Data Platform Institute, which just opened, I want to say maybe 6 months ago. And you can subscribe to get an email from them every day to get an update on what's going on in the space. It's fantastic to see how everybody's trying to race out the market. This is the year of the CDP. If you're not using one now, you'll be using one 12 months from now, and it's what you'll have to do to be able to adhere to regulations, but also to deliver that personalized experience. But those are the three that we work with the most, we're the most familiar with, and I don't have to tell you which one I think I like the best. I'm not going to throw this thing like everybody else does.
Oh, yeah, listen.
Actually, I have two questions.
Sure.
The first one
They
is,
only get one and a half.
okay. First one is, it's great to have all that data there so that you can use it, but also, does it include like a visualization tool
Yes.
as well? So it's like a Domo plus everything else kind of thing?
Well, what Domo does and what Tableau does. Tableau is just a visualization tool. It's not actually managing all that data from all those different places in one place. So the difference is that you physically have that singular customer record, which exists in the platform, and then there are customized ways. Most everybody I just rattled off can afford you the opportunity also to use Tableau to visualize things or Domo to visualize things if you need to, but to customize some of the dashboard views that you would have there in terms of audience segmentation, in terms of how you want to search for certain behaviors, in terms of what you want to do to divide and conquer all those records.
So it's not like a whole marketing team facing tool for them to look at results or anything like that?
Certainly could be.
It could be. Okay.
Certainly could be.
And then what's the time frame from, say, oh my God, we want to do this, to it's up and running?
Great question. I can tell you that the guys at Treasure Data can do it in about 60 days. And kind of what I'm talking about is walking into a client who tells me that they have 2 CRM systems, 3 marketing automation systems, 2 mobile apps being used by 1 million customers each. We have 17 Facebook pages, 23 websites, and we have an email database and 60 terabytes of unstructured data from the sweepstakes we ran over the last 10 years, sitting in a server in the cloud. And we're able to go in and normalize and take a copy of all of that data, let the system do what it needs to do to normalize it and create the singular customer record and have all that up and running with all the incumbent systems that you have. This is not rip and replace the systems that you had in place and you're comfortable with. And then turning the switch, turning it back on within 60 days, and boom, you're up and running.
Thank you.
All right. I know Jeff's got something else to say to you. I'll see you all upstairs. Thank you.